So today we will continue with our first painting project, and at this point you should have completed your imprimatura. And what follows, what we're gonna do today, is we're gonna start to add paint to the canvas. But before we start to paint onto our painting, we need to mix our values of gray. We're gonna make our grisaille. Grisaille is painting done in just a range of gray values, and we're gonna be mixing these values for our painting. And what I have here are the things that you need. So you need, of course, you need some paint thinner. You need your palette, 2 palette knives. You need titanium white, ivory black, and raw umber. These are the paints we're going to use to make our grisaille here. Now, also you want to look at your syllabus, and on the syllabus you have these formulas here. It says, the chart for mixing paint, and it has the paints that you need, and it has the formulas for mixing these values. Now these are approximate. I don't have exact measurements, but they're fairly easy to follow, and I'll explain what I mean here. Like on the value 9, it says 2 parts ivory black to 1 part raw umber, which just means it's twice as much ivory black as a raw umber. Ivory black in general is a very cool black. When you add white to it, it makes very cool grays, and we want this grisaille to be neutral. That's why I'm putting in a little bit of raw umber. Some manufacturers of paint, they make very warm ivory blacks, so you have to just be cautious. If you're using one of those brands that is already very warm, or the ivory black is very warm, you just maybe don't want to add the raw umber. But if you look at my paints, I use all different brands. I like the Winsor Newton ivory black. I like the white from Gamblin, and I like the raw umber from Grumbacher. And so you want to have this out. Also on the video, I figured it out. I can post an image within the video. So throughout the time I'm mixing, I'll post these on somewhere up here. Now this has the earth colors. The color we'll get eventually. We'll get to this, but today we're going to focus on this part. Just the values. And I'm going to just show you briefly how you're going to, because you also need to do this color wheel with the value scale as part of a grade for the class, and just to help you in understanding the whole concept of values and color, how they relate to each other. So to do this, I will be giving you, or I will be posting online, I'll post this is the drawing of the color wheel. And a way that I figured out that is very easy for students to do this is, we print them out, and then on the back, what I've done is I've covered it with charcoal. There's a big piece of charcoal. And then what I do, I put this over, I have a canvas here, I put this over a canvas. So I made transfer paper, right? And you can tape it down. And then you go in with your pencil and you outline, you go over the outline, over the lines here and here. And then when you remove it, you have, I did this before, before I started the video. Your drawing will transfer. That way we don't have to use any kind of complicated ways of making this circle. I think this is just an easy way to do this. And you want to have your value scale down here. And you want to number them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is going to be the darkest value. 1 will be white, pure white. So overall, we're just going to end up mixing 8 values of gray. Well, actually 7, because this is black. This is the darkest value here. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll get started on doing this, and we'll mix them. I mean, I have mine already done, of course. I've done this a bunch of times. I've already painted them in here. But before we start to painting on our imprimatura painting, you mix your values and you fill these in. So you want to be aware of that. Now I'm gonna move this over here, and I'm gonna zoom in so that you can see more closely how I'm mixing the values. Again, these are the things you need: some paint thinner. I forgot to mention this. You need a rag, some rag to wipe your paint, and your 2 palette knives. So we're ready to start mixing our values of gray. And I'll start off, with the ivory black and raw umber. Remember from this formula, if you've looked at this on the syllabus, it says, to start off with our darkest value here, which is value 9. It says 2 parts ivory black to 1 part raw umber. And what that means is that you're going to put twice as much ivory black as raw umber. And the reason that I add raw umber to the ivory black is because ivory black is a very cool black. Its temperature, it's almost blue. And so to neutralize it, to make it not as cool, that's why I like to add raw umber. Raw umber is a neutral brown. And so what I'm doing here, I'm just adding approximately an approximate amount of raw umber that equals about half of the ivory black. Maybe a little bit more now that I've taken a second look. Now, all these values that we're mixing today, I have formulas if you want to make bigger amounts. But this is the palette that I like to work with. But for this, we can just have our formulas. We can just have them be a little, just they don't have to be as exact. But this will be our darkest value, the 9. And so I'm gonna mix this as thoroughly as I can. See, and this is the benefit of having 2 palette knives. You do this, and then with the other one you can scrape it down, clean your palette knife so that you can really mix it thoroughly. So here you go. This should work. And from this, I'm going to neatly, place it on my palette, right on the edge, using both of these palette knives. This is how you use them. Just put it there. Now, this is our value scale. So we made this 2 parts ivory black, 1 part umber. That's what we have. Now, the way that I mix all of these is I will mix this value with white, equal amounts, and it should give me something around here. So that's what I'm gonna mix first. I'll mix this one, and then we'll mix all these, and then we'll mix these here. And you'll see right now here. So I'm taking about half of this mixture, and I'm gonna add about the same amount of white, again approximately. I think that should, and I'll do this, you know, start mixing. There's many different ways of mixing, different little strokes, but you know, this, I like this. And take my palette knife, scrape them down like this, and mix thoroughly. Gather all the paint. And so I want to pick up all this paint here, all this, pick it all up and give it another mix here. So this should end up looking like value 5. So I have the darkest, value 9. I've got white, which is number 1. And this, I like how this is looking. This looks like my value 5. So I'm gonna bring over this value scale. I'm gonna see if I put it over here on 4, it looks darker. If I put it here, it looks about right, and over here it looks lighter. So from just mixing this so many times, I have a good hang of this. So I'm gonna take this and put it right in the middle here, because this is our 5. I'll scrape this up a little bit, and I'm gonna take half of it, put it here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go lighter from the middle value. I'm gonna go towards 1. So I mean, there's a little bit of black, but it shouldn't matter there. So I'm gonna mix about the same amount of white as about the same amount of gray that I already have here. And later on, as I'm editing the video, I'll put these pictures. I'll put them onto the video, so you have them there as a way of judging what the values should look like. So every value has to be different from the one right next to it. They need to have you need to be able to tell the difference. But also, you do not want them to have too great of a difference, especially, of course, if they're right next to each other. So this should be 4. And here's a word of caution as you are mixing. Let's say you mix a value of gray and it doesn't look right. If it doesn't look right, you know, remove half of it and just try and change this amount, because it's easier to change a small amount than a big amount of paint. And oftentimes it happens to students that they try and change a big amount, you know, like if I have these two, and they try and change this by putting white and white, and they end up making a huge puddle, a huge mound of a gray. Because once this gets to a certain size, it becomes really hard to change the value. So always, you know, remove half of it and then try and change it. So this is 4. Let me test it out here as a reference. See there, like over the 5, it looks darker. That looks about right. Over the 4, and then over here looks darker on 3. So I'm happy with how this is looking. So this is 4. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. I've got 4, and to make it into 3, I'm gonna add about the same amount of white as the amount of gray that I have here. This will give me value 3. Now, again, your values have to have a difference. You have to be able to tell the difference between each one. But some people will make their values very bright. And some people, like myself, I had this problem as a student, and I still do. I tend to make my values very dark because the type of painting that I do, you know, with very strong lights and darks, very much influenced by Caravaggio. And I think sometimes that also translates into the personality of the person, whether they mix bright values or dark values, whether someone's an optimist or a pessimist. This is 3. It looks darker over 2. It looks about right over 3, and it looks lighter over 4. So I've got here my value. And there's a difference in each one. Now, like I said, some of you will make very bright values, some of you will make very dark values. You have to be aware of this because you need a nice range of values on your value scale. Otherwise, your painting will look too bright, too high key, or too low key if they're too dark. And in this setting, with this online teaching, it'll be harder for me to warn you ahead of time. Your values are getting too bright or your values are getting too dark. So now I'm gonna make value 2. I might have to remove some of this, just set it aside here. Again, because this value 2 has to be very bright. See what I did? I removed this almost like a quarter of the original amount of value 3. You know, I put a lot of white into this. Again, because I know my tendency to make my values very dark. Again, you know, look at how I'm arranging the values very neatly on the edge of the palette. You always want to keep this area clean for mixing. So this is value 2. And I'll look over here. See, that looks about right. Looks too light over that one. It looks about right. So I've got value 1, which is white, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 6, 7. I need 3 more. These are the lighter values, and then I have the middle and the dark values. So I'm gonna clean up here this space. I'm gonna clean this up. You can put some paint thinner in here, of course, to make it easier, but the paint is wet right now, so I could easily wipe this off. We're mixing only 9 values, but there's stories, you know, about the French Academy, especially a student that studied under Ang or Ingres, that he would make his students mix up to 90 different values of gray. And I mean, one way you can think of students doing that is, you know, like we've got here 5, 4, 3, 2. You can make another 10 values here, another 10 here, another 10. The differences will be minimal, but this is the kind of very rigid training that students had back in those days. And when we're painting, you can mix between values to get the correct value range in your painting. So now to go into the dark values, I'm going to take half of 5 and look at the mounds of paint that I have. They're pretty big mounds. Don't skimp out on your paint. See, now to make 6, I'm going to add equal amounts of 9 and 5 here. When this is all said and done, I might have to make more of this value. See, this needs to be darker. Well, let's judge it here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it's pretty good. There it is, 6. So I put that there. Now I'm gonna make 7. Take some of this and almost same amount of the black mixture. So this should give me 7. So this is, you will find out as you're doing this that there's a lot of trial and errors that you're going to be going by. And, but I mean, that's the way to learn. So this is value 7. See, like I told you, I'm going to have to make more value 9. See, it looks too light there, looks about right. And it looks too light over this one. So I have value 7. Luckily, I already have some mixed over here. Some of this value 9. I'm just gonna grab it over, bring it over. So I got some of this. So value 8 is your dark is gray, and so I will get value 7. Again, about half of this. And some of this. I might still end up having to make more of that value. And this is value 8. Like I said, the darkest gray. I'm gonna have to put all this in here. So there, you got 8. Now, like I said, I'm gonna have to make value 9 again. And it might seem like this takes a long time, but I think it proves very beneficial in the painting process. I like to have a lot of pre-mixing. I think it's once you start painting, it speeds up the painting. It speeds up the actual painting process because you do so much preparation. So again, I get some ivory black and some romber, about half of the romber. Again, approximate amounts. Spread it out. And there you have it again. So I have my 9 values. And you want to have this nice organization to your palette. Keep, this 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sometimes students, they just spread out all their values, like they have 5 next to 3 and next to 8. If that's happening, then you're defeating the whole purpose of this. You need to have them in order. So let me just clean. You want to keep this area clean. So there you have it. And once you have them mixed, you want to go back, remember, and fill this in. And after you do that, it'll look like this. And then you can go and start on your painting, on your still life of cubes and boxes, which is what I'm going to do next.